Hello, fellow educators. I was asked to share with you a little bit how I use Lucid Spark in my courses. I'm Ken Novak. I teach at St. Ambrose University, both the Philosophies of Life, which is a core course, Introductory to Philosophy, and also Business Ethics. And I'm going into my seventh semester of using Lucid Spark in the classroom. And the thing that prompted me to do it was twofold. And one of them was I just noticed that I have to intersect our students, especially now in the age of AI, in a different way, and to evaluate and to cultivate their skills in a different way than just the typical artifact. And part of it was to have them take the agency to not only participate in discussion, but actually to organize it and to construct it and to then facilitate it. And I tell them they do this for 50 minutes, 50. And I think they all nearly have a disbelief about that. But then when they realize they do it as a team and it works out really well, they become a believer. The second thing is that whether we like it or not, the screen has become both a medium and a mediator of our discussions. And I find that to avoid the crickets, the students feel more comfortable in a way by participating through their screens and yet being face to face and dialoguing. So this is not asynchronous. This is not necessarily online learning. This is in the classroom. I have a wonderful classroom where I have 6 different tables, each one of them with an enormous monitor that projects their screen up for the team to look at. And so what we're just going to discuss today, as best I can, is the idea of what is behind a Spark discussion. So before we ever have a Spark discussion, we have what's called ground rules and team building meeting, and we do some team building things where they get to discuss among themselves various aspects. But what they're doing is preparing in a way for what will become a Spark discussion. And part of that meeting is understanding what that is. So Wednesday is our day when 6 different teams of anywhere from 4 to 6 members each will come together. They will guide a 50-minute discussion over content and material that they have in advance. And they will both explicate the understanding of what that is, also work on cultivating some questions that will keep that discussion going. And then finally, they'll also apply a model in the last section of it to further enhance their understanding and breaking apart of that the content that they were looking at for the week. And then at the end of the week, they just have to write a reflection on how that discussion went. But that's basically what the Spark discussion is, in a sense. And over here, with the wonderful thing about Spark boards is I could put my frequently asked questions. And during that ground meeting, they also take in some questions about what they think the meeting will look like. But they also learn, in a sense, what is a Spark discussion. So what you see here is another aspect of that ground rules and team building meeting, where they take a look and say, here's the framework. There's going to be 4 different large frames: purple, orange, green, and blue. Everyone's purple, and that's kind of become a saying in our classes, which means that everyone will always has to engage the content. Orange is how we understand the content and how we break it apart. Green is the cultivating those classroom discussion questions. And then I prepare the blue one where they apply a model over the content that they think about. So they don't have to prep the blue, but they do have to prep the orange and green. And so what they'll do is they'll say in advance, do we want to split up the work over the next 3 weeks? Do one of us want to take, or a couple of us take the understanding part of it and break that apart? Somebody else want to get our discussion questions kind of out there? Do we all want to just do a little bit of each one? I really don't care how they do it. The real key here is student agency, in that they take control of it, they take charge of it, and the product is whatever the product is how they come out with it. But it's been very successful and a very good thing. So this is one of the examples where they can start to select those things. And if they forget what all this is about, then they can watch a wonderful embedded video of the entire thing. So one of the things I do is I give them all 3 weeks in advance. The discussions actually happen on a Wednesday, and the students will prepare a week in advance for this. And what they always have is they have the frames here that I'm presenting, and the purple frames are the content. So everyone has a responsibility to have read and understood the purple content. And so if we kind of look at this is 1 week, one Spark discussion, and everyone will have the content inside of the purple um, frame. And so in this case, there's TED Talks, there's some short little videos, there's a podcast. This is our first week. We kind of just ease into it, but I can add online reading. I can add various different aspects as well, documentaries and so forth. So everyone has to understand and have an understanding of that purple, and then they either as a team divide up, or maybe they all contribute to the understanding of that material, and they break it out in a sense, and they can use images, and they can use sticky notes and so forth. They can use some of the spider web diagrams, whatever they would like, to kind of break apart the material, so they find different ways or places they want to specifically engage the material, which leads over to the third section, which is to cultivate curiosity. And that is basically keeping the discussion going. So this is where we start to really pose some questions and spark some discussion with respect to specific areas of those podcasts or of those content and those material. And the students start to discuss these different aspects of it. And they use images and different things that happen within the course that we're familiar with. And then finally, I always prep the blue section, meaning that they don't have to do anything in advance to it. It's usually an application of a model. They need to have read it and understood what the questions are, and then what they'll do is they typically pick somebody who kind of facilitates the blue section. So they'll take the lead on it, and that person will say, okay, now I'll guide us through this blue section, and then they talk about the various aspects of it. So in Spark discussions, the synthesize is where we start to bring all these different models together with the content. Some of the images that they use, I've been using Presenter Media for years, and so I use their images and have used them in my lectures and in my material. So I have created my own images through them, and then I actually use them, and the students apply them now to various aspects of the different frameworks of the modules within the Spark discussion. So again, all 3 weeks, I give it to them all in advance. They can take a look at it, and they will guide as a team a 50-minute discussion among themselves. And then at the end of the week, what they'll also do is they will do a reflection on that discussion, how it went. Part of that discussion will also be some of the critical skills that they applied, whether it was collaborative inquiry, which is obvious here, but multicultural perspective, historical perspective. Was it, did we have ethical decision making? Did we have a fact checking? There's all kinds of different critical thinking skills that they also applied during the discussions. And then the metacognition of it, I asked them to think about thinking, right? And I say, tell me a little bit of how that has showed up in your discussion. And so they write about that as well. So it's kind of an awareness of what's actually going on. Wonderful tool. Have used it. It's evolved, and maybe in another future video here, I'll explain a little bit of how I'm using some of those critical labels and those critical hexes for them to even think about thinking during the discussion, and maybe even apply them through the new custom shapes tool that Lucid Spark now has.